Welcome to another episode of Killer Conversations. Welcome back, true crime fans. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to delve into the darker side of things.
All right, so today we're taking a look back at 2023. And let me tell you, it was a year packed with some of the craziest, wildest true crime cases we've seen in a while.
Yeah, some really grab the headlines.
Absolutely. And we've got a whole stack of sources here, news articles, court documents, even some listener submissions.
Oh, wow. First-hand accounts.
Yeah, should be interesting to see those perspectives. But before we get into specifics, I think it's important to acknowledge, these cases, while individually shocking, they often kind of reflect bigger societal trends, anxieties, fears, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they make us think about the world we live in.
Exactly. Okay, so let's just jump right in, shall we? There's no better place to start than with the case that I think had everyone talking, the Idaho student murders.
Oh, yeah. Chilling case.
Totally. 4 university students brutally murdered in their off-campus house. It was just one of those stories that stopped you in your tracks.
The brutality and just the fact that it happened in a place that you think of as safe, a college town, really shook people.
Right. That sense of security shattered. And then to top it off, the suspect, Brian Kohberger, a criminology student.
Yeah, that just added a whole other layer of intrigue, didn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, talk about ripped from the headlines, right? It's like something out of a crime novel. And one of the things that we kept hearing about was how important the digital trail and DNA evidence were in this investigation. Now, for those of us who aren't, forensic experts, can you maybe break down how those things are used in modern investigations?
Sure, yeah. I mean, these days, our digital footprint is massive. So investigators can use things like cell phone location data, social media activity, even internet searches. It all helps to piece together a timeline,
Yeah.
Establish a motive, maybe even place a suspect at a scene.
Right. So it's not just about hard evidence anymore. It's about building a narrative.
Exactly. And then you've got DNA analysis, which has advanced so much. Even trace amounts of DNA can be enough to link a suspect to a crime scene or a victim.
Wow. So in a case like the Idaho murders, that digital trail and DNA evidence could be the key to the prosecution's case.
Absolutely. Although, the defense will certainly try to challenge that evidence, present alternative explanations. That's what makes these trials so interesting. It's a battle of narratives, both sides trying to convince the jury of their version of events.
It's high stakes for sure. And speaking of high stakes, the Murdaugh case, oh boy, another one that felt like a Southern Gothic thriller come to life.
Oh yeah, that one was a wild ride.
Wasn't it? You got this powerful legal family in South Carolina, a double murder, and then layer upon layer of financial fraud and alleged botched cover-up. It's just crazy.
The Murdaugh case really shows how fast a perfect life can fall apart, and it raises questions about power, privilege, how those things can sometimes influence the justice system.
Definitely. I remember being glued to the news during that trial. Every day there was a new twist. And the fact that Murdaugh still claims he's innocent, even after being convicted, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, those continued claims of innocence, they just add another layer to the story, don't they? And now with those allegations of jury tampering by the court clerk, there's a chance of a new trial.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, it's developing. It'll be interesting to see if any new evidence comes out if that trial happens.
Absolutely. So even when there's a verdict, the story's not always over.
Exactly. And that kind of leads us to another case that for years seemed like it would never be solved. The Gilgo beach murders.
Yeah. This one is just haunting.
It is. Bodies found along this remote stretch of Long Island, the community terrorized. And for years, investigators hit dead end after dead end.
Over a decade of mystery.
Yeah.
And it just captured people's imaginations, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think these kinds of unsolved cases, these mysterious cases, hold our attention for so long?
Well, I think it's the unknown, We crave resolution, we want answers. And when we don't have them, it creates this vacuum, this space that speculation and fascination rush to fill. And in these cases, they also tap into some of our deepest fears. The fear of the dark, the unknown, the fear of becoming a victim ourselves.
Right, that unsettling feeling that danger could be anywhere.
Exactly, even in places that seem safe, idyllic like a beach.
Yeah, it's chilling. And then finally, after all this time, the arrest of Rex Hoerman, an architect, in connection with 3 of the murders.
Yeah, big development. A lot of people thought that day would never come.
It's amazing to see the dedication of law enforcement, that they never gave up on this case.
Yeah.
But of course, Hoerman says he's innocent.
And he does.
Yeah.
But the evidence against him, including DNA found on one of the victims, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, and with his wife filing for divorce and participating in that NBC documentary, the whole story's back in the spotlight. And it makes you wonder, what kind of impact does a case like this have on the families involved? especially when the suspect is someone they knew, maybe even trusted.
Oh, the trauma is unimaginable. I mean, they're dealing with the grief of losing someone they loved, but also the betrayal, the realization that someone they thought they knew could be capable of such a horrific act. It's a double blow.
It's heartbreaking. It reminds us that even in our closest relationships, we can never truly know what's going on inside someone else's mind. And that actually brings us to another case where betrayal seems to be at the heart of the story, the disappearance of Anna Walsh.
And this one, it just feels so relatable, you know? Because it happened in a place that we all think of as safe, a normal suburb.
It's that whole idea of like, it could happen to anyone, right?
Exactly. Anna Walsh, successful real estate executive, vanishes on New Year's Day, gone without a trace, leaves behind a husband and 3 kids. Just, it's terrifying.
And right from the start, there were these unsettling details. The cleaning supplies. Her husband, Brian Walsh, was buying the incriminating Google searches, like how to dispose of a body. It all just pointed right at him.
Oh, yeah. Those early details definitely raised some red flags. And then when you add in his previous conviction for art fraud, it's like, okay, is this a pattern of deception?
Right. Like, is this someone who can just put on this mask of normalcy while hiding these dark secrets?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? But we have to be careful here, right? Because suspicion, circumstantial evidence, it doesn't automatically equal guilt. The prosecution still has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was responsible.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the narrative, especially with a case this compelling. But everyone deserves a fair trial.
Absolutely. Presumption of innocence is crucial, even when things look bad.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about a case that really gripped the public's attention. The murder of professional cyclist Anna Mariah Wilson in Austin, Texas.
Oh, this one was a tragedy. The cycling world was devastated.
It had all the elements of a true crime thriller. The love triangle, the jealousy, an international manhunt. I mean, it's crazy.
And the details of Caitlin Armstrong's attempts to evade capture, it was like something out of a movie.
I remember those photos of her trying to disguise herself with bandages on her face. It was bold. I'll give her that.
Desperate, I think. It speaks to that feeling when you think you have everything to lose.
And she really thought she could outrun the law, even with all the evidence piling up.
It's that classic tale of passion and jealousy gone wrong, but with a modern twist, the digital footprint we leave behind.
Right. From the Idaho case to the Walsh case, it seems like it's getting harder and harder to get away with anything in the digital age.
It is, to some extent. But, you know, that same technology can also be used to exonerate people who've been wrongly convicted, especially with advancements in DNA testing, so it's kind of a double-edged sword.
That's true. Okay, so before we get to our final case, I want to touch on one that I think hits close to home for a lot of people. The allegations against James Craig, the Colorado dentist accused of poisoning his wife's protein shakes.
Chilling case. Absolutely chilling. Just the level of premeditation is horrifying. He allegedly researched poisons, ordered specific chemicals. It's calculated.
It makes you question everything you think you know about someone, right? To think someone you love, someone you share your life with, could be capable of that.
These cases, they force us to confront the darkness that exists in humanity, and they remind us to be vigilant, to trust our gut instincts, and to speak up if something feels wrong.
It's a tough lesson, but an important one. Okay, so now let's talk about a case that has captivated people for almost 2 decades. The disappearance of Natalie Holloway in Aruba.
This one, it just grabbed the world's attention, didn't it? A young American tourist vanishes, and Joran van der Sloot becomes the prime suspect, this figure of international mystery.
And for years, he denied any involvement. It was just endless speculation and theories. And then finally, he confesses to killing her. But it comes as part of a plea deal in another case, an extortion case.
It's complicated, right? Because on one hand, it finally gives Natalie's family some answers after years of uncertainty.
It's a bittersweet victory for sure.
But then there's his apology, his claims of finding religion. It's hard not to be skeptical, especially knowing his history.
Right. It's like, was it genuine remorse or just a calculated move to lessen his punishment?
We may never know for sure, but regardless of his motives, it does provide some resolution to a case that has haunted people for so long.
It's a reminder that sometimes, even in the darkest circumstances, the truth does come out. But it also makes you think about the nature of justice. Does a confession obtained through a plea deal truly bring closure?
Yeah, it really makes you think, what is justice? And can we ever truly get closure in cases like this?
Right. True crime, it's rarely black and white. More often than not, you end up with more questions than answers. We've covered so much today. You know, the Idaho murders, Alex Murdaugh, so many cases that really shook people to their core. And I keep coming back to this idea that, like, while these are individual stories, they also kind of reflect our collective anxieties.
I totally agree. They force us to look at some uncomfortable truths about human nature, about trust, betrayal, about how fragile our sense of order can be.
Like looking into a mirror, right? Seeing the potential for darkness even in ourselves. So I'm curious, for our listeners out there, which case resonated with you the most? Was there anything that surprised you, made you think differently about the world? Let us know. We love hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, I'd love to hear which one stuck with you and why.
You know, for me, the James Craig case, the dentist who allegedly poisoned his wife, it really got under my skin. It's that idea of the person you love, the person you share your life with, being capable of such a calculated, cold act that's just chilling.
I get that. It's a reminder that darkness can lurk even in the closest relationships. And maybe that's part of what keeps us coming back to true crime, right? This glimpse into the darker side of humanity, the reminder that evil can wear many faces.
It's like a morbid curiosity, but also a way to maybe prepare ourselves for the world as it is, not how we want it to be.
Exactly. These stories can serve as cautionary tales. They teach us to be vigilant, to trust our gut, and to never ever take our safety for granted.
Well said. So on that note, we'll leave you with this question. What can we learn from true crime despite its darkness? Does it make us more cautious, more aware, or does it just feed into that fascination with the macabre? Something to think about.
It's definitely worth pondering. Maybe by exploring these dark corners, we can understand ourselves a little better, both the good and the bad.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the true crime cases of 2023. It was a wild year, to say the least. And we'll be back next week with another episode that's sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more killer conversations.